Hello YouTube, I'm C. Today I'm making another tutorial for you guys. This tutorial is beginning of a series where I'm going to be showing you how to solve the Rubik's Cube. Now, I'm making this Rubik's Cube more for me because, as opposed to other tutorials, because I learned how to do this by myself. It took me 3 years to figure out how to solve the Rubik's Cube, and now I'm at the point where I want to try and solve the Rubik's Cube faster, and I want to try and solve my 4x4. I've only gotten 2 rows of my 4x4, so I want to start looking up other ways of doing it, but at the same time, I kind of want to keep in memory how I originally had it so that I can say, this is what I managed to figure out on my own, and this is how far I got. I figured a good way to do that would be to make a tutorial, so that's why I make this video. I want to keep a solid track of how much I was able to get how far I was able to get on my own before I give in and use pre-made algorithms, or algorithms other people figured out. So this is going to be organized into 3 videos. First one, I'm going to show you how to make a plus, which doesn't sound that hard, but there's a intuition to computation scale. At least that's what I call it. That's a pattern that I noticed when I was figuring it out. That in the beginning with the first few layers, by the way, I'm using a layered approach, starting with the first layer, second layer, and third layer. So with the first few layers, you use a lot more intuition. You understand exactly what's happening. With the first layer, there aren't any real algorithms. You just kind of intuitively figure it out. Then towards the end, it's pretty much all computation. They're long algorithms that don't make much sense. They're just, at least for me, I don't understand how they do it. I just know that if I turn them this way and that, it works, and I figured it out by a process of trial and error. So intuition to computation scale, and so in the beginning, I'll be explaining why it intuitively works, which takes a little bit longer, and that's why I decided to only do a little bit the first video. So yeah, that's the first video. First video we'll be covering making a plus on the first face. Second video, we'll be finishing off the first layer by adding corners. And we'll also be doing the second layer using the midway algorithm. And that's not an actual algorithm, it's just a pattern that I used a lot, and there's just patterns that I used a lot, and I decided to give them names just to make it easier to reference. So the midway algorithm is what we're going to use to solve the second layer. Okay, so those are the first 2 videos. Third video, we're going to solve the third layer using 3 algorithms, the alpha, beta, and gamma algorithms, and we'll be talking more about those later. But for now, let's get started on the first video, and I'll show you how to make a plus on the first layer. Alright then, so let's get started. What we're going to do today is make a plus sign on the first face, just like this. This doesn't seem like it'll be that difficult, but there's a fundamental problem in how most people would try to approach this. They would look at this face and try to make a plus, but they don't realize that it's possible to have a plus in this face but have the pieces in the incorrect place. This can be seen in how most people try to solve the Rubik's Cube, or try to start solving the Rubik's Cube. They try to start by solving the first face. But, as can be seen in this example, the pieces are in the wrong places. In order to continue from this position, they will need to disassemble what they already have, which of course is very inefficient. This problem happens because they're thinking in terms of faces, with the cube having 54 faces. What I want you to do is to think of it in terms of pieces, with the cube having 26 pieces. This makes it much easier to visualize, and thus also makes it much easier to solve. Better yet would be to think of it in terms of 17 pieces, because these center pieces, it's impossible to move them. Like, move around the cube as much as you would. Well, in my case, the red will always be opposite of the orange, the yellow will always be opposite of the yellow, and the blue will always be opposite of the green. No matter how much I mix it up, it's impossible to have it set up that way. We can take advantage of this fact when making our plus. Notice that I have each of the middle pieces aligned with its corresponding centerpiece. This would be impossible to do if I switched 2 of the middle pieces. See, I just switched the yellow and the green piece, and now if I try and align the centers with the middle pieces, it would be impossible to have them all aligned. So we're going to be using that pattern as a tool when we're trying to get our pieces aligned. Now let's get started in solving it. So just to make it clear, I'm going to be referring to these pieces as the corner pieces, these pieces as the middle pieces, and these pieces center pieces. So now when I refer to them, you'll know which piece I'm talking about. Now, to get started, let's choose our side. I'll go with orange. So let's get our first piece of the plus in there. Usually this can be done in one move. So as you can see, where this is the top, we have this piece with the face facing out of one of the sides on the middle row. See that? How it's on the middle row? Middle layer? Whenever it's in that case, we can do it in one move. So there you go, we can do that one move. So that's one possibility. There are actually 3 different cases for putting the middle pieces in. So that's one where we have it in the second layer. The second possibility is where we have it in the third layer, also still facing outwards. So do we have any of those right now? No, we don't, but it would look like this. In that case, you're going to rotate it once to get it into the middle layer, and then rotate it again in order to get it into the correct spot. Another thing to keep in mind is if you're in a scenario like this where you have a piece in the bottom layer and you want to twist it up, but by twisting up, by doing so you're pulling another piece out of its place. So in this case we have this piece in position, but by trying to get this one in position, you are taking it out of position. If you're in a scenario like that, then we need to twist this along the bottom layer until we're in a position where we're open to turn it upwards. Then once we're in that position, we can turn it again to get it into its correct place. The third possible situation is where we have it opposite, facing downwards, opposite of our face. In that case, you would turn it twice to get it into the correct position. So, let's review. Either it's on this second layer, in which case you can turn it once to get it into the correct position, or it's in the third layer, facing outwards, in which case you would turn it once to get it into the second layer, and turn it again to get it up into the correct layer, or it's on the third layer facing downwards, in which case you need to turn it twice like that in order to get it in the correct position. Okay, and also notice whenever you are in a position where turning it will get another piece out of position, you need to turn it along its respective layer, the third layer or the second layer, till it's in a position where you can turn up. Okay, so now to get a plus, we start with our first piece. We do one move, and then in order to figure out where our other pieces need to go, because I said in the beginning it's important the placement of the next pieces, we're going to align the center along this piece. So now blue's aligned here, so we know that white needs to go here, green needs to go here, and yellow needs to go here. Okay, so let's find one of those pieces. Here we have our orange-yellow piece, so that needs to go here. So step one, let's rotate it so it's in the yellow layer, and in this case we have the scenario where it's facing downward. It's on the third layer going downward, so we can rotate it twice like this to get that in the correct place. Now let's find our next one. Here we have orange-white, so we need to get it in this section, so we'll turn it once to get into that section. There you go. And then again we can turn it twice, and a semi-rotation to get in the correct position. Then our last one is this orange-green one, so we need to get into this, turn it into this spot, so we need to rotate it over there. Then we're going to start solving by rotating it to the second layer, like such, and then we're going to need to rotate it again because rotating into its place will knock this one out, so we need to rotate it in a way so that when we rotate it into place, it will go into the correct spot. Alright, and now we have our plus set up and it's properly aligned with the center pieces. Now we have a basis to work off of. Another misconception a lot of people have is that, well, they'll still start trying to solve it, and then every day they'll chip away at it a little more and try and get closer to the solved position without ever scrambling it. You've been trying to get to the point where they're at now. They just keep chipping away at it until they can solve it. I'll tell you, using that technique, they'll probably never solve it because they're not able to recreate what they've done. So that said, now that I've shown you guys how to get to this point, I want you guys to practice this and see if you can keep scrambling it and see if you can get back to the same place. Also, switch up faces so that way you're color independent. You don't have to start out at orange every time in order for it to work. So that way, I just screwed up. So that way you won't depend on the color, because when you start trying to solve it faster, you'll be starting with the face with the most pieces in place. So that's my hint to you. Practice until you are comfortable getting to this section, and then once you are, move on to my next video. I'll see you guys there.